Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
I'm John.
Today's date is Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. We're almost to 2022. Only half a month left. So here tonight, off of a little hiatus, talk about Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl, CJ Stroud at the Heisman ceremony. Early signing day was today, so we'll go over some of that stuff. Some craziness in the South. We got some wild years in front of us with name, image, and likeness right now. And then then we'll talk about Jim Knowles being hired as the defensive coordinator for Ohio State for next year. So let's get started.
All right,
John. Rose Bowl. Obviously, it's not where we wanted to be. We wanted to be in the playoffs. So we obviously talked about the Michigan defeat on our last episode. The Rose Bowl.
We need to ever revisit that.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl is the consolation prize. Man, it just doesn't like. I mean, I've seen some Buckeye fans that are, they're putting the Rose Bowl on it and stuff like that. The bow is on the Rose Bowl. But I don't know. It's just some of the stuff that lost its luster when the BCS came to form, and it's like completely gone now that the playoffs are have become a thing. It just it kind of sucks because there was a time, like I remember when like we went and played Oregon out at the Rose Bowl when Tressel was there. I mean, that was our first Rose Bowl in forever, and it was pretty cool. And it was they lost 2 games that season. We had no chance of being in the BCS top 2. So I was okay with that. It's like, all right, hey, we'll go Rose Bowl. We'll beat Oregon up because they were a Chip Kelly team, and it was cool. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't. When we played Washington a couple years ago, I mean, it was kind of intriguing because it was Urban's last game, but it was just like, I mean, it was nothing like the feeling you got when they played Oregon basically a decade earlier.
No, I mean, I can agree with that. It's still, it's still a big deal. It's still cool to go to the game. So I'm not going to say, it's nothing to be happy about because I'm still happy that they're there. But you're kind of right. It's doesn't have the same just because of, what the playoffs are nowadays. Now, with all that being said, though, you still got to take care of business while you're out there. You don't want to lose. I mean, not necessarily, it's not like the worst thing ever if you do lose this game, but you don't want to be the team to lose to Utah in the Rose Bowl, especially when you're Ohio State. It's Utah's first time ever going there. And as good as what Utah is, it's still Utah against Ohio State. You don't want to be, the Ohio State team to lose to the Utes in Pasadena. So
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure there. I think you might see a fair amount of opt-outs in some key places, but also you might see some guys that will surprise you and they're going to play. I don't know. I've matured a lot over the years when it comes to people sitting these games out, though. Before I used to be like, oh my God, how could you do that to the Brotherhood? How could you sit out, your bowl game? It doesn't matter. And honestly, I would like, if you're not playing for a national title, of course I want to go out on a win on the season, but I would love to see those guys that are going to be starting next year get the reps with the ones during these bowl practices, and also, get to see what they can do during the bowl game itself.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. I think the thing that probably excites me the most is just that they're getting 15 extra practices that are going to be designed a little differently than the extra practices when you're in a playoff game. I mean, when you're in a playoff game, I mean, the main goal is to win the playoff game because you want to advance to the national championship. So, I mean, I think this playoff, or these 15 practices, it's about maybe getting some other guys in there. I mean, we don't know if Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are going to play or not. And, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, as much as I love Wilson and Olave, would love to see him each one more time, and maybe one of them will play, maybe both of them play. I don't know. But if maybe the chance to see Ibuka and, Marvin Harrison Jr. and seeing what some of these guys can do in this offense now, that would be kind of exciting too. And considering that those are the boys CJ Stroud's going to be thrown to next year. And
yeah, Julian Fleming, like I would love
Yeah.
to see him, get his shot at the outside, like be a showcase receiver because we haven't got to see that much.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think Julian Fleming's, way behind on his development or he's not there, but truth might just be that Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are in front of him. And
yeah,
you're not taking those guys off the field too much for meaningful snaps. So yeah,
No.
I mean that's what I'm looking forward to. I would love to see those guys have a shot. Now, and I know we're not at this point yet. I was thinking about it though, like what about guys coming back next year, but they're already stars this year. Like, what do you? And of course, you like I said, we're not at that point that they would sit out this game. But how pissed would you be if a CJ Stroud or a Trey Henderson or someone got hurt in this game? And I know you can't live your life like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, college football, they have not began sitting out yet for players that are still coming back. So that would be kind of out of characteristic. I don't want to be Ohio State to be the first team to do that. Now, if that starts getting done in the long run and that they're going to start treating this like a preseason, NFL preseason game,
Yeah.
It is what it is. At that point, though, if they're going to start doing that, they really do need to go to 12 playoff games because, like, 12 playoff teams, because you're not going to get any fans. CJ Stroud and Trey Henderson are both sitting out, and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave is opting out. Yeah, I don't need to see this game. It might be a background game. I might be doing other things, and
I don't even know if that would be on my background. I might find a movie that I would enjoy more than that at that point to be in my background. No, and I agree with that. I'm definitely not advocating for these guys to sit out. I'm just like, how these games are going now at the playoffs, and they're just becoming more and more and more an exhibition by the year, Like, I would not want to see my guys in any way get hurt. But no, I expect them to play. I want them to play.
Yeah.
And of course, I am not advocating for any, underclassmen to sit out the bowl game just because, I wouldn't want anything to happen to them for the next year.
Yeah. Now we'll get more into this. We'll do a pre-Rose Bowl game prior to the game, a couple days prior to the game. But just to talk about a little bit before, there's some little concerns that we'll get more into when we do that. It's just Utah, physical team. They bullied the hell out of Oregon twice. And, an Oregon team that kind of, offensively bullied us around. And then when you're coming off the Michigan game, it's like, there's some stuff there to be concerned about. So I'm a little nervous about the game. I won't lie, because there's a lot of things on tape now about Ohio State that they're like, that Utah could look at and be like, all right, we can do some stuff against these guys, So and Jim Knowles ain't going to be there yet, and we'll get to him later. Maybe they'd be a little bit more aggressive, if he's the defensive coordinator. It's just, if it's like the same old what we saw against Michigan, it's like there's a lot there that Utah could really exploit.
Yeah, one thing Ohio State, and I know it goes into, there might have been effort or toughness questions, but don't let yourself, get outnumbered on a side of the field. Like, Michigan constantly did that they had Ohio State was completely out leveraged to the short side of the field. And, maybe they thrown a pulling guard or something there. And pretty much the offensive line was in the second level the entire second half of that game. So, be smart with your alignments. I've said that from the beginning. I think a lot of the issues with, Barnes and Combs has been I don't know that they really know what they're doing when it comes to just teaching guys where they're supposed to be on the field.
Yeah.
Like, I think guys are so confused pre-snap. I've seen it so many times with Ohio State that they don't know who to follow when people go into motion. They're confused pre-snap, and they don't know where they're supposed to be on the field. And Ohio State just gets out leveraged. They get bullied, and like Michigan runs down their throat. I mean, it sucks to think about. You have the highest scoring offense in the country, and a running back from the other team scored more points than your offense did.
Yeah. No, I agree. So just some stuff, like we said, we'll get more into it when we do our Rose Bowl thing,
But
when we really can look at the game.
Those Oregon games. Ohio State's got to take them for real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Take
definitely.
them seriously if they want to win.
I mean, Utah's been a for real team since Urban was there. I mean, Kyle Whittingham. I mean, he may not be the the name that Urban Meyer is, but I mean, he is not. Utah has not fallen off the planet since he's been the head coach. Like, I mean, they're going to be tough, and they play good defense, and they're physical, and so it's going to be a game if Ohio State's not ready to do it. Now, Ohio State still beats them on athletes and stuff like that, but as we were just talking about, this is a game that is not really what it once necessarily was. I'm sure it's fun for these guys to go play another game. They get to go out to California, but I mean, I don't know where their serious level will be until we see where their serious level will be. And bowl games are kind of weird where, I mean, you think about, the years that, I mean, Cincinnati, yes, they're in the playoff, but, they almost knocked off Georgia last year. I mean, Utah has beaten top programs before. So, I mean, you see a lot of times in the bowl games where the so-called better team of the two is, kind of sleepwalking because, in reality, they kind of not want to they want all the vacation part of it without necessarily the playing part of it. So, some of that stuff will come into effect, but we'll talk about that here, once we get closer to the January 1st. And
yeah. And I think our next topic we're going to talk about, though, could be one of the reasons why Ohio State will come into this game more focused than what you would think.
So Heisman Trophy, CJ Stroud got invited, one of the 4 finalists. He did finish 4th, but I mean, good showing for him for first year. I mean, he's got another year next year. I have a feeling he will have another opportunity to win it when you consider Ryan Day's offense. Bryce Young did win it, so congratulations to him. It's quietly the teams with 7 Heismans, the USC's, the Notre Dame's, Ohio State, Alabama's quietly has caught up to them, that they're now at 6. So, like, it was crazy to think that
they're at 4. They're at 4. They're not at 6. They're at 4.
I saw that they were at 6.
No,
was that a mistake?
Yeah, they don't have a Heisman outside of Saban's classes. So it's all their Heismans have been won since Saban's been there. So it's Ingram, Henry, Devontae Smith, and now Bryce Young.
Okay, I stand corrected. I saw
room there, but
I think that was Fox too. Like that was
It's been quite the surge, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's within 12 years.
Yeah. Well, maybe they gave 2 to Saban.
The man probably deserves them. That's for sure.
Did this Alabama kid finish second to Reggie Bush and get that one? Like, probably not, but
no. But I mean, maybe they gave Mac Jones one for last year too. I don't know if
maybe they gave all those guys last year. They all realized that they basically were all the Heisman Trophy.
Maybe Will Anderson got credit for this year because he should have been there.
Yeah. All right. So, but the big news of the kind of night was so Aiden Hutchinson was getting interviewed, and I mean, before we get into the Desmonds comment, I mean, I didn't watch the Heisman. I was following along on Twitter. I was watching a movie at the time, but there was a little pit in my stomach. Like I swear to God, if another Michigan guy wins the Heisman Trophy off of his performance against Ohio State, I will throw up, because I mean, basically Desmond doing the Heisman pose is the only reason why he won the Heisman. And I mean, I know he had other stats there, but Charles Woodson had much better stats. It was much more understood, but he got that nice little exclamation point when he ran his punt back against Ohio State. So, Like,
Why are you kicking either one of those guys?
I don't know. So yeah, there was a little pit in my stomach. I'm like, I swear to God, if Aiden Hutchinson wins this, their fans will. You think their fans are unbearable right now after winning a game for the first time in 10 years?
Yeah.
But Desmond, so him and Hutchinson, they're talking about Ohio State, and Hutchinson. I mean, he made some comments, but hey, he came back to play Ohio State. He wanted to win this game. They won. I have nothing against what anything he said. But then so Tim Tebow, I forget who was there, but there's a guy in between Hutchinson and Stroud.
Kenny Pickett, the quarterback from Pitt.
Okay, so it's Pickett from Pitt, and excuse me, and so and Tebow makes just a little joke, hey, just stay there, you're like whatever, so this doesn't get out of hand. And then Desmond with his, and the crowd didn't even like it. I mean, there was maybe a couple laughs, but it wasn't even that funny. It's better than whatever. It's better than their offensive line, Ohio State's offensive line, and it was just a tacky joke. And in the long run, if you think about it, I mean, it doesn't really mean anything. But I mean, for a commentator that's working at a big network that hosting this game, that you're supposed to. I mean, you would never see Kirk Herbstreit make a comment like that. In fact, you would never see any of the Ohio State guys. Chris Spielman, who's probably the most competitive. And you could, when he used to do Ohio State games, you could definitely tell how frustrated he would get with, with Ohio State. He would not make a comment like that. So it's just, I don't know. It was just tacky.
Yeah, it was in bad taste, and that's I'm trying to kind of pull it up right now.
I'm trying to think what the full quote was, but I mean, it dealt with the offense. Basically, that's what he said. Is he's referring to Pickett. He was going off of Tebow's comment that that's better protection pretty much than what the Ohio State offensive line gave C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Is Desmond the one? Is he even doing the interview? I mean, he might be. Is he interviewing Aiden during that?
I thought I'm pretty sure that they were talking with each other. So,
okay. I mean, I don't know. I guess if he's the one doing the interview,
I thought that's how it was. Like I said,
I didn't. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of it's a little bit better than him just interjecting himself. It's harmless fun. And he said it was a rib, but I just thought, given the circumstance, it was a little, like you said, tacky. It's unprofessional. This isn't the Academy Awards or the MTV Music Video Awards or something where people are insulting, people in the crowd. It's never been a thing at the Heisman where you poke fun at one of these players' accomplishments or their teammates. This is their night. It's about them. You don't just interject yourself to try to get cheap laughs out of people. Yeah. I mean, when Jabril Peppers is there in 2016, did Archie step up and say, "Oh, thank God Curtis Samuel's not here to run by you," or "Thank God JT's not out here to put you on roller skates,
juke you out of your shoes"?
So, I mean, I just don't get it. I think you handle yourself professionally there. He could have went up there and during their game day broadcast. I mean, I'm sure they got a million of them that him and Kevin Pollak, is that his name?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sure there's a million of those that those guys are going to be doing from now until, the end of the year, end of bowl season, because they're the two low men on the totem pole. So they always got to do all the little, the little fun ones during the day. I mean, he could have talked crap about Ohio State's offensive line as many times as he could have during that little circuit there, but he chose the Heisman ceremony. And I just thought it was tacky. And that's just a lot of my issues with this. I don't care about any Michigan fans, running their mouths. I think you seriously are lacking some self-awareness by all of it. Your team hasn't lost for 10 straight years and almost for 20 straight years, but that's fine. I mean, your team won, enjoy it. I don't care. And the way they beat up Ohio State, go have fun with it. But, in 2015, Urban Meyer could have been like, "Hey, this is your Messiah over here," about Jim Harbaugh, because he's the Michigan man that was going to bring him back to prominence. 2019, I mean, Ryan Day, or 2018 or 2019, Ryan Day could have been like, Don Brown's team, they're an aggressive defense, but they're not a smart defense. we could have done this shit all the time, but we didn't. So and they want to speak about like our fans. That's what fans do. But as a coach, you gotta be more professional. And I don't, or as like a guy that works for ESPN that's associated with the university, you gotta be more professional. And I don't think Ryan Day telling his team in private, if it actually happened, we're going to try to hang 100 on those guys.
Yeah.
I don't think it constitutes being the same thing.
And the most confirmation we got of that is from people that were in the room that it was something like that. So I mean, we don't even know if that was the quote on it. I mean, it could have been like, we're gonna kick the hell out of them or whatever. I mean, it
says,
it could have been whatever. And also remember that comes off.
You said that to your teammate or your player.
And that also comes off of, somebody trying to embarrass Day on an actual telephone call with the rest of the coaches in the conference and, going after him for, supposedly cheating or whatever.
Well, he wasn't embarrassed Day. He was saying he was cheating to, the league that he was.
I mean, technically Harbaugh started that one first. So and just the thing on Michigan, I know some Michigan fans are like, oh, Ohio State fans are just upset. It's because he's a Michigan guy and stuff. And, I said on Twitter and stuff like that, I have a lot of respect for, I mean, as much as, seeing the highlights every year during the Michigan game, the big game Charles Woodson has. And, I think I could have seen Charles Woodson. I mean, he was obviously excited during the Fox broadcast that Michigan was looking so good, but I don't see Charles Woodson making that comment.
Charles, never done that.
I could see him doing maybe a fist pump up there that Michigan finally got Ohio State, but I don't see him saying something to C.J. Stroud like.
He might have gave Aiden Hutchinson a high five up there, but he wasn't going to do that. But again, I mean. Tebow kind of put it. Who knows if Tebow didn't say, "Kenny, stay right there."
Yeah,
maybe it doesn't happen anyways. I don't know. I don't want to get too upset about it. I just thought, like I said, not the time, not the place. I thought it was a little, bush league for given the circumstances.
And honestly, it's probably all these little comments are actually kind of working out because I'm assuming that I told you in private, I think this is probably going to be the most intense winter that Ohio State has went through in some freaking time. And I mean, everybody always talks about how intense mixed winter programs are, but I have a feeling that this one's going to take the cake. And so I'm not too concerned about it. What's being said was said.
Yeah, and I hope a lot of the players have their pride hurt a little bit from, what that last game was. And I hope they're really stepping up as leaders this year, and they're the ones that are, running those hard workouts.
Yeah. All right. So National Signing Day, the early signing period. So Ohio State finished where right now they have the fourth best class in the country. Obviously, as these last several years have went on, first signing day is usually the crazy day now. So I mean, there's still going to be a couple big guys still out there. Like a Bohr, he hasn't signed yet. I think what I heard that Gabe Powers isn't signing till Friday, but it doesn't seem like there's any issue that
nothing's up in the air. I think they're doing press conference at his high school, so that's
So we'll be getting one more with him. Unless Texas pays him money too. I mean, who knows? So I mean that's kind of like that's more what I want to talk about today. I mean, Ohio State ends up with a fine class. I mean, it's top four class.
Not a lot of guys in it yet either.
Yeah.
They had north of 20. They're at 17 right now.
Yeah, so there's still a couple guys in there. And we've talked about in this past, there's some openings, and Pantoni said it today. It's signing day and he's looking at the transfer portal, and but that's college football nowadays. And I've kind of said that I think Ryan Day probably has to kind of go under maybe two different thought. He has to maybe take two different types of thought processes and go with one strategy. He either needs to go kind of an Alabama signing thing that, I'm going to go sign 28 to 30 kids every year. And, because I'm going to have attrition and I'm going to lose kids, or I'm going to sign 20 kids every year and I'm going to fill out the rest of my spots with transfer kids. And I don't know which way is the better way to work, but I would think that, you know, and even Alabama, who signs a bunch of kids, they still go out, and if Jamison Williams is out there, they'll bring him in if they have a spot open. So, I mean, I think it's one of those situations that probably maybe some of the recruiting strategy needs to change a little bit, because you might have to start keeping some spots open, knowing that if the transfer portal every year going forward is going to look what this portal looks like, there's some big time 5-star kids out there that were 5-star kids that have moved on because they weren't getting the playing time that they wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're right. He has to figure out how to kind of like navigate that to what he wants to do, and he has to figure that out. I don't know. I mean, it's not a bad idea for your weakest spots to get one, physically ready, plug and play guy, even if it is only for 1 year.
Well, right now, just going off the top of it, I mean, I wouldn't mind going after maybe a lineman or two in there, offensive lineman or two, possibly maybe an older linebacker in there, even though we got some kids coming back from last year's team, and we got a good haul coming in. We lost some corners, and now knowing Jim Knowles, we lost some corners coming. We had 2 really good corners that were committed that we've lost over the last 4 months. One today. That maybe get a couple secondary guys. Knowles likes safeties too, and we could definitely use the safety help. So, I mean, there's some spots in there where Ohio State could really go into the transfer portal and possibly pick a couple people that could really help this team.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So did you mention you said Terrence Brooks got flipped?
I didn't mention by name. So he left today for Texas. Flipped literally everybody in the country. Everybody flipped to Texas today. They were handing big time checks. I mean, what did they flip? Like 4 or 5 different kids?
Yeah, today? But they were all Texas kids.
They're
right?
all Texas kids, and then obviously
like that's I don't know. It's kind of the thing you would expect to happen. I mean, once that Quinn Ewers domino fell with with NIL out there.
Like God, they weren't going after Caleb Burton. Like I was getting nervous there for a little bit. I was just like, oh my God, they're gonna pull him too.
With the new, it's his second year, but with the new coach, he came in, later last year, and you got that Quinn Ewers flip and the NIL money. You were going to expect things like this were going to happen. It's not. I mean, this isn't like University of Texas San Antonio or something. This is Texas and Austin. Like this is the University of Texas. Like they're going to have good recruiting classes. Going to the SEC, that's going to help their recruiting class. Like I know, and I probably was guilty of it too. Joked around that why would they go to the SEC? They're going to be like third best team. I have no idea what they're going to be when they get to the SEC because they're going to get those recruits. They are literally the state school of the best the best football state in the country. So they might win the SEC for all I know with the right mentality, get the right coaching there.
Yeah.
And you got that.
And it's crazy. It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think about Quinn. He was originally committed to Texas. He decommits to go to Ohio State, reclassifies, and then still signs with Texas on the day that he was originally supposed to sign with Texas. So,
God bless Texas.
But yeah, so no, you're right on all that stuff. It's just, I think the biggest thing I have, and anybody who's listened to our shows, I mean, we're both proponents of name, image, and likeness. I always thought that this was the best way to go because getting to actually get the universities to pay the athletes becomes a much more red tape type of situation, because then you're dealing with the Olympic sports, the women's sports. How do you do it without violating Title IX? I mean, there's a lot of red tape to go around. So to me, this was always just like, just let the players go out and make their own deals. Like there's no law stopping that. The only thing that was stopping that was the NCAA. So and that when the NCAA is kind of the biggest at fault here, though, is that, instead of fighting it, they were fighting it. They got shitty with California when California was the first one to pass the law that, they're going to allow their players to go out and get paid and all this stuff. And, the NCAA comes out and they start posturing. Well, maybe the California schools will be thrown out of the NCAA. Well, then Florida does it, and then another state does it, and another state, and then instead of like trying to get in front of this thing when the first couple states did it, they just kept on the sideline and you know they could have created all the standards, fine, this is allowed. We don't necessarily agree with it, but this is the way the country is going, blah, 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 whatever speech Mark Emmert wants to give. And, they could have came up with the standards. Well, the University of Texas came up with the standards, and they came up with those standards today because there was no standards. And, so, and,
and I said it today on Twitter, over the last 2 years with COVID, how the just mishandling of the COVID season and NIL, the NCAA has proven itself to be absolutely worthless.
yeah. And so, like, really, they should kind of be out of the way. And I'm like, and this is kind of, it seems like this is kind of the way Greg Sankey wants to be pushing it, that the Power 5 conferences are just in control of this stuff. And the NCAA is not really putting up much of a fight to say that, no, you guys are under us. It's kind of like, well, you guys go do what you guys want to do. And, maybe we'll watch over the others, the other divisions and maybe the group of 5. Like, it's like every year, it's like they get a little bit more permission that, like, okay, if you guys really want to break away, like, there's really nothing we can do, just don't destroy our basketball tournament. And like, that's kind of what it feels like anymore. And because that's where the NCAA makes all their money, is on the basketball tournament. So, it's just, go ahead.
No, I'm just really disappointing how they've handled or not handled this at all.
So Texas set the standards today, and A&M set the standards today. They've got a couple big ones too. And so going forward, the big schools, now Ryan Day sees it. I know some Buckeye fans, I think, took his quote today that, Ohio State can't be a part of that. I think they were taking it way too, I think they were taking it, instead of taking it literally what he said, they were taking it that Ohio State's not going to try to compete. I mean, legally, Ohio State can't get involved in giving players money, and I think that's all he meant by it. But, if the Ohio State boosters want to go with the businesses that they own and the Ohio State alumni with the businesses they own, and you want to start handing out NIL deals to people to get kids there, I mean, there's nothing stopping that right now. So, feel free to do what you got to do.
Yeah. I'd give them like throw $1 million scholarship out there for someone the starting running back at Ohio State, like,
yeah,
you can do a lot. You got to do a lot of fun stuff with that, but and Ohio State's not going to, Ryan Day and the Buckeye team themselves, like, they're not going to just like not let that take place. Just what he was saying was the university cannot pay kids, like they can't. University cannot get involved. It's not on them. So yeah, people, they needed to relax on that comment.
Yeah, so I saw some people throwing that around that they did not like that comment by him. But I mean, literally that's all he was saying, is that, hey, we really can't do anything about it. I mean, Texas didn't go out and give those kids checks today. Those were the Texas boosters, and
as far as
it's like, the next Pony Excess movie is going to be the legal craziness of NIL. And that's all I thought about today. I'm like, man, I got to watch Pony Excess this weekend, because that's like what today felt like to me. I mean, could you imagine what the ponies would have been like in this type of world? And like, I can't think of that guy's name who was doing all the money throwing back then for them, but he, like, everybody would have been employed.
Oh my God, he had the coolest name too, and I can't think of that either. Darn,
yes,
I'm gonna have to watch that. Yeah, I remember, because the one guy even says, like, if a guy's named so and so, you could tell he was up to no good.
Yeah. So I mean, but Buckeyes got a good class. Like I said, the NIL, going forward, Texas kind of set what the rules are. The SEC is going to set what the rules are, because the NCAA decided not to get involved in it. So, and Ohio State, they're not going to do anything. They're just gonna follow what the SEC does, and they're going to play big boy ball too. And USC is going to have to do the same thing out in the West. If Clemson and Florida State want to, play this, they're in Miami, they're going to all have to do the same thing. I mean, I know Miami's going to have the same the, the money that's down in the city of Miami. They're going to love this. For you think about how many times they've been on probation, been like, oh, we can buy these kids now for real. Okay, like like
What
I can
the
only imagine what type of money's going to
Campbell,
start.
right?
Yeah, I can only imagine what kind of money's going to get thrown out around there now. So, I mean, so shame on the NCAA. They had an opportunity to, just look forward for once. I mean, Jay Billis, great follow on Twitter if anybody ever follows Billis, because he rips the hypocrisy of the NCAA apart as much as anybody does, and I mean, he always has some great quotes up there, and it's just he's always been on this. It's just a joke that why keep on fighting it when you know that's the way it's going? So like, and the minute the state started realizing like, wait a second, the NCAA is not a federal body that's out of Washington D.C. They're just some regulatory body that the schools all hired to kind of run their things. So we have more power than they do as the states. And you know what? Here in California, they took it as they're one of the, love California, hate California. California is very big on, fair and equal opportunity payments. And, so that's where that came from in California. So why aren't these kids allowed making money when these universities are making a boatload of money? So, and that's where it came from out of California. And then Florida was like, well, that's a good point, and we're not going to let you go pay kids when we can't. And then all these other states started realizing, like, crap, like, you ain't going to be. Then it was more about just the football. It was like,
Right.
they went to their state houses and been like, Alabama football can't compete if Alabama football ain't allowed paying with these kids. And that's how then the rules got changed in state by state. And the NCAA was just like pretending like it wasn't even happening. And then they're like, well, it's happening and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, you could like kind of lead and be like, well, we have to come up with some sort of rules in place that make sense that these are all going to happen. So here's the standards we want to live by, but they didn't even do that.
Right. And I just again to go back to the Terrence Brook thing, like I don't want to make it seem like I'm walking through life with scarlet colored glasses on, but my opinion and what I want to say to, other Buckeye fans is I don't think this is a failure on the coaching staff not to get this kid. Just circumstances came up and, it's Texas. It's not, like I said, it's not like you're competing against SMU for this. Maybe bad example given what, we've been talking about, but it's Texas you're competing with right here. So it's not that Ohio State's any worse than Texas. I know they're a better program. I know they've been better ran than Texas, but still, the state school Texas, they got a ton of money. It's a lot of these kids grow up dreaming to play for Texas. And when all that momentum starting to go their way, that's a lot of times that's all these kids need to feel comfortable and flip and want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of something special. So
Yeah.
I don't take it as a failure on, the coaching staff, Ryan Day, defense, Combs, whoever was his main recruiter. It just dominoes fell they did, and Texas won this battle.
I don't take anything against the coaches. It's just the one thing I just want to say to the coaches is that and I know they were. I hope Ryan Day's eyes were very wide open today because, it's just a different game than he was coming up in. And there's going to be, if Ohio State is still going to be the Ohio State that they've been over, the last 2 decades, specifically the last decade where they've really have competed with these schools and on a recruiting level too, that, you got to just keep your eyes open. You saw what happened. And if you want to keep doing that, you got to be prepared that, money means everything now. There's one thing I want to hit about name, image, and likeness and today, before we get to Jim Knowles. So Deion Sanders at Jackson State, he's not just the number one cornerback in the country. He's the number one player, right?
Yeah.
That's what
some services. He might be number one composite. Yeah.
So he's committed to Florida State, which is Deion's alma mater. That's like the best part about it. Deion played for Florida State. Deion steals their best player out of their draft class or their recruiting class. And There's some rumors that Deion has connections with Barstool. There's some rumors that Deion got the kid a pretty good name, image, and likeness deal. So I don't know where the legality, the rule wise, any of that. If all that is true, like I don't know what that breaks if he really was involved in it. Maybe he wasn't involved with it. Maybe off the record he might have been involved with it. So who knows? I mean, it's just crazy to think that that they get this kid to leave Florida State and come to Jackson State, and I mean, good for them. If they're not breaking any whatever remaining rules are left, if they're not breaking any of them, I have no problem with it. I mean, that's pretty sweet. And he ends up if he ended up getting like hardcore paid out of this, I mean, hell, whatever.
I'm gonna have to break off and do a little tangent now that I'll try to make this thought process, go quick, but fans got to relax when things like this happen, though. I mean, I realize that sucks for Florida State. I saw a video. Someone was burning a framed, signed Florida State Deion Sanders jersey because of this. Like, the guy has a profession. He is a coach at a football team. Like, his job depends on being successful as a coach of this football team. He is doing what he's supposed to do. It's like a lot of Buckeye fans were all like, they heard that Marcus Freeman made a call to Brian Hartline, and they were all flipping out about it because, you don't do that to your alma mater. You don't poach for them. Of course you do. Of course you do. You call the people one of the guys that was a teammate is the best recruiter for wide receivers in the country. Possibly, I mean, I think you and I would say he's the best receiving coach in the country at developing the guys. I mean, that could be debatable. I know Alabama's had a ton of success with their guys too, but there aren't many better outside of those two. So of course you got to call him. You aren't doing your job. You aren't trying to get your second contract if you're not calling a guy that's the best at what he does. So I think people need to calm down a little bit about that stuff. Like, don't be that guy. Don't be burning your sign.
I saw how many Twitter spaces today from Florida State fans, fire North. Yeah, I mean, I know you didn't really watch The Sopranos all that much, but I mean, there is one episode where Tony gets a painting made of him with his horse, and then the horse dies, and then the painting comes, it gets delivered, and he wants it burned because it just reminds him of a horse, and they're burning it outside, and Paulie sees it, and he saves the painting, and he's like, it would be an honor of me to hang a picture of the skip up in my house, and like that would be me. I'm no Florida State fan, and
you would say the Deion jersey though.
Yeah, he's only a Hall of Famer. I've been like, and it's signed. I've been like, yeah, I'm gonna go save that right now because I mean,
I just thought it was ridiculous. I mean, you got to have a little bit more composure on yourself. I mean, I get you lost, number one player in the country, but come on.
Yeah,
let's not be babies.
So, but yeah, that was crazy. I mean, when I was seeing that, when they were just saying that there's rumors that they're gonna flip this kid, I'm just like, there is no way in hell Jackson State's gonna go flip the number one player in the country. But yeah, it comes out that when I saw Pete Thamel's tweet that his sources were confirming that it already happened, I'm just like, my God, like what a day.
And then people are saying, how long will he stay there? You already made the decision. Like,
yeah,
if he does well, I mean, I don't know, having Deion Sanders as your coach, how you're not going to get developed, how people won't trust that you're still good at your craft.
Well, imagine if he does 2 years there, looks the best, and then maybe he decides, like right before he's ready to go to the NFL, okay, I'm gonna go play for Alabama, or
right. So just whoever. So they can see I can do it on that level against.
Yeah, and he looks phenomenal, and yeah, he becomes the first corner, maybe the number one player in the draft, because yeah, that could very easily happen. Go for a couple years to get let Deion be your coach, and get taught by one of the greatest cornerbacks that ever played the game, and and then okay, I'm gonna go play for a big boy somewhere. I'm gonna go play for Alabama, and go lead Nick Saban to his 100th national title, and
I think he actually would be up to 101 by that point.
Yeah. So that was interesting. All right, so we're gonna finish up Jim Knowles. So I will admit it, you were the first one that got the scent out of us two that Jim Knowles was a possibility. You know, of course, we talked about some of the guys I was interested in a couple weeks ago when we did the Michigan show. That I said like let's go reach out into maybe Muschamp or Corey Raymond or Chris Ash, somebody along those lines. I didn't necessarily. I don't pay a lot of attention to the Big 12, so I didn't really know how Jim Knowles was. I remember when you texted me that there's a lot of buzz about Jim Knowles, and I'm just like, who's Jim Knowles? And like he's the guy at Oklahoma State. I'm like, was he good? They don't play defense out there. Like, who is he? And then so I've looked him up a lot, and I'm actually really excited about this hire. I want to there's a lot of things I love about it. The one thing that kind of makes me nervous is that the majority of the teams don't run the ball a lot in the Big 12. So I don't know how some of those rushing defensive numbers are skewed just because he doesn't face a lot of teams that want to run the ball. Even though there's some, you got Iowa State and TCU's been more of a running team and different things. So there are a couple out there, but
Baylor with Aranda has been more.
So I mean, there's more rushing teams I think in the conference than maybe there was 5 years ago, but still. So I mean, I'm definitely intrigued by it, and I've watched some of his videos. I've watched like the Ross Fulton breakdowns of his defenses, and I like that they call him a mad scientist. It's he does a lot of differences between pre-snap, post-snap. He runs a lot of different coverages in there. Sometimes it could be a cover 4 and then turn into a cover 3. It's just like I like all that, and I hope that when they get him in here that he's really able to teach it to the guys, and that Ryan Day just lets him go through his process, because it's going to probably take a minute for him to really teach this to these guys. And I don't want them freaking out. Like, it just needs to be simplified, because we saw this year when they just decided to simplify it, and it looked a lot better in spots, but then they basically were running a zone defense where they were not trying to match up with anybody, and you kind of started seeing that a little bit more as the season went on. And then when they got to Michigan, it was like not only are they running a zone defense, but they're only got 6 guys in the box or whatever it was, and Michigan's killing them.
Yeah, and you still had guys even like in that fourth quarter, you still had, your safeties were still breaking into pass coverage first. And it's like, dude, they're not throwing. Like, they got no reason to throw on you. Like, you just man up and force these guys to throw.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the hire. I think he's a smart guy. He went to Cornell. Yes.
Yeah.
He was the head coach at Cornell. He coached at Duke. He's been around smart people, obviously. The defense was really good this year, and I know he had a lot of older class.
His defense over his 4 years, though, they literally got better every year at Oklahoma State. I mean, he was a top 10 defense last year, and
the most talent he's ever going to coach. So that's a plus. You hope obviously the guys can buy in and learn the system, because as I've said multiple times, I mean, I know the scheme was a huge issue against Oregon, but again, it was just like guys did not know where they were supposed to be pre-snap or post-snap. They didn't know who they were when people were motioning. I mean, you saw it go as far back as that national title game. Like, no one knew who they were supposed to cover. And it's just like, I mean, as much as I like Kerry Combs as a recruiter, I think Matt Barnes is a bright guy, and he has he definitely has a future as a defensive coordinator, but I just don't think at this time in their careers they know what they're teaching these kids. Yeah. And these guys got to understand where they're supposed to be on the field, because it's not like simplify complexity, whatever it may be. If you got guys that don't know where they're supposed to go when that ball snaps, they cannot play fast, because they don't know what they're supposed to do, and they're out of position. And we saw how much of that did we see against Michigan, that it just looked like guys were just letting themselves get hit first instead of blowing up plays, because they wanted to see where the ball was going. Like, they didn't know where they were supposed to go when the ball snapped. They were waiting see what the offense was doing to them, and they got killed because of it.
They were blowing our defensive linemen off the ball. And then the linebackers and the safeties, they weren't coming up the field. They were just staying there and letting those blockers come to them. And at that point, I mean, you literally just gave up 5 yards without even trying. Like,
I mean, when was the last time you saw a Big Ten team knowing that they were going to go up against a rush defense or rush offense, a rush attack like that? Well, before it actually hit them, like going into that game, you knew what you were facing.
no.
And when was the last time you saw someone that knew that and they weren't even trying to like blow up the run? Like they weren't trying to fill gaps or blow up the blockers. You know, I saw like Zach Harrison, and I'm not to pick on the kid, but there was a pulling guard, I believe, on the one play, and Harrison lets him get to him. Like,
Yeah.
why are you not just blowing that dude out of his hole right there? Like,
Yeah.
that's how you get these plays. That's how you get tackled for loss.
Yeah. So, the possibly not playing against a couple of more rushing style teams, so that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah.
4-2-5 still makes me a little nervous just because, this year, but there's differences to it, and he's not afraid to move his safeties up. And the one thing that his guys are trained to do, that he trains his defensive linemen to do, he does a lot of stunts with the defensive linemen, and they purposely do go after pulling guards, and they try to quickly blow into the holes. I like how his linebackers, instead of necessarily, they rotate from the middle to the sides, and they do a lot of that coming down the line of scrimmage, and it's like now you're throwing two defenders at a tackle, which I like. I wish we would do more. The Leo, the one end that they're standing up, they're going to move a lot between 3 linemen with 1 up and 4 down linemen. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about this. There's a lot of he runs a lot of blitzes. He runs a lot of 8-man coverages. So I just like that they're going to be different, and trickery. It's not even trickeration. It's just just being a little different on every play, so people can't get comfortable with you. And when you have an offense as prolific as Ohio State, the best thing that you can do on defense is just get off the field, and don't let them march down the field on you. Don't let them score. And if they do score, the best way to get scored against is because you maybe were slightly out of position, or you were playing a press coverage somewhere and they were able to hit a home run. But you get that right back to your offense right away, and that you're still at the advantage as the team with that, because you're gonna be the better offense. Every game, you're basically playing in the regular season, you should be the better offense. So
yeah, and knowing that he'll have more talent than what he's ever had, you don't have to be as varied, at first.
yeah.
You can teach guys concepts, not have to get too much too soon, and you can still be successful with the defense. What I really like about him, though, is he's not predictable. And that's so much of our offense the last 2 years. They didn't do anything pre-snap. They did not show it. Like, they did not disguise their defense. I know Barnes started to this year. So, and that was definitely a welcome change, but he is going to, he gives you different looks than what you actually see once you snap the ball. It makes the quarterback think. The other thing I'm really excited about is if you look at that guy's numbers, even going back to Duke, I don't even know if Brent Venables is a better in-game adjuster, making in-game adjustments, than what Jim Knowles is. I mean, look, you can look at some of those second halves of the games that he's been defensive coordinator, and he shuts teams down a lot. He makes his adjustments, and I think there was like 3 or 4 games this year that they shut out a team in the second half completely. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that too. I like that they're going to be much more varied. I saw one where he had like 10 guys at the line of scrimmage almost, and they ended up dropping it. I don't think they only had like 3 rushers. They ended up dropping everybody into coverage. I mean, so it's just stuff like that. And I heard him, I think it was the 11 Warriors write up basically said that he likes to run the cover 0 all out blitz, at least once a game, just because offenses have to realize that could come too.
If it happens and it goes for 6, you get the ball right back to Ryan Day's offense.
Yeah, and but yeah, it's just nice to think that. I mean, there might be, like I said, I watched the film where he lined almost everybody at the line of scrimmage with maybe except the one back safety, and then they drop everybody back into coverage again. So, and I mean, there's just some weird things that he's gonna do, and that's fine to me because I want to get back to just those style of defenses that they hit hard, they tackle right, they don't give up a lot of yards, they don't give up a lot of points. It's kind of the old school, defense, and we've been around a lot of good defenses at Ohio State. I mean, and it's some in this damn decade too. I mean, Hafley had his 1 year, whether that was just that he had the best secondary that they've ever had there. When you think about Fuller as his back safety
and a generational defensive end.
Yeah, and a generational defensive end. I mean, so what? That might have disguised. Maybe Hafley's not as good as a coach as he is, but he was good for that defense. And then Fickell's years, I mean, with Meyer, I mean, 14, 15, and 16, I mean, they had one of the most ferocious defenses in the country. And, I want to get back to that. And, I mean, I know there's some critics of Tressel's defenses over years, but Tressel's defense were always pretty sound defenses. They always made their tackles, and they they did what they were supposed to do. And more games than not, they were definitely the aggressors. Once they really got used to what the other team was trying to do against them, they got very aggressive as the games went on. And so that's what I'd like to see. I mean, just maybe. And maybe Jim Knowles is a similar guy. He likes to fill teams out a little, and then, all right, if this is how you're going to play me, I got the perfect defenses now to run against you. And I'm looking forward to just him being. I'm just looking forward to having a Ohio State defense again. It seems like the last 5 years, outside of the Hafley year, we just have not had that.
No, I agree with that. Your defense has to start being tougher again. Even as you and I have pointed out, over the last 2 years, you don't necessarily need the number one defense, but you do need to be able to create extra possessions in a game. And and I don't know why, like in Ohio State, it's kind of like the worst of both worlds. Cause they don't like how they play their zone, they don't pattern match or, man coverage within the zone or anything. They just drop back to green and they let people make plays in front of them to extend drives. But then Ohio State constantly, I've seen maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but seems like they still give up points in the red zone. So you can't let people, just eat yards to get down to your goal line and then still give them the touchdown. If you're making them kick field goals, that's one thing. Like I can live with you giving up a bunch of, yards if you're trading 7 for 3 on the possessions, but if you're still giving them 7 points, then it's not working out for you. So,
and like you said, we don't need the best defense. They need to be a top 10 defense, and they need to be a consistent top 10 defense. I mean, again, for how many times? I mean, we just saw Georgia best defense, and Alabama ate them up, and so this is a different football, and so Ohio State's offense with a top 10 defense that's just giving them the ball, giving them more opportunities and stuff like that. Ohio State's offense is gonna destroy teams that way, and you get some turnovers.
And Georgia in the ass in that game. All they had was a running game, and their tight ends can make plays. That's Bennett can get the ball to the tight ends.
Yep.
If they had a more explosive offense, their defense don't need to be as good. They could have played with Alabama in that game.
Yeah. So that's all we need from Ohio State is just get a consistently top 10 defense in every major category. I mean, they got to get better as passing defense. This guy has better passing defenses than, that's the one thing that's good about being he has good passing defenses for being the Big 12. So I think they'll be fine in that situation. I want to see what he looks like a little bit more against teams that might want to run it a little bit more, but I think he can handle that. And, but that's probably my biggest question mark coming in is how, we're playing Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State. We're playing some teams next year that are going to want to run the ball. So, I mean, that will be kind of a big thing to see, how he does with that. But I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be nice to see an experienced defensive coordinator back there that is just the coordinator. He's calling the plays, and it's his show.
You have the personnel to stop the run, so you shouldn't be worried about that. Have guys, have your line being able to play fast, have your line knowing what they're supposed to be play tough, and have guys know what their assignments are. And I think
maybe him as a mad scientist, that's something that we have not seen out of his defenses before. He's primarily a 4-2-5 guy, but maybe he'll be primarily a 4-2-5 guy, but he'll figure out how to run the 4-3 in this and different things. And you might see some for the first time ever, just because he's going to have he'll have three legitimate linebackers, and he's going to have some running teams. So maybe you will see every now and then he'll be mixing and matching between 4-2s and 4-3s and different things and trying some stuff. You don't know. I mean, it definitely seems like he's a open-minded coach that likes to learn and find new things to do. And so, I mean, who knows?
I'm excited to see who the main Leo is going to be, and I don't know what they'll call it at Ohio State, because it'll be some stupid name like the Bullet or something like that.
Well, you got to assume that it's probably going to be Sawyer. A lot of people think it's going to be Sawyer, but in other situations, like I don't know if he'll be necessarily ready to do it next year. But I mean, you put some weight on him, and he's tall enough to do it. I mean, Sonny Styles, I mean, that could be a position where they could
definitely be something in the long run. I think you're still a year away from that, but
yeah, but that could be
that. Yeah, Sonny Styles is going to be all over the field. He's going to be a deep safety. He'll be, the center field safety. He'll play the Leo at different times. Yeah, he's going to do everything. He's going to be a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, so I definitely could see that, and maybe not necessarily. He might not be line next year per se as that guy on the line, but maybe they will try him a little bit at linebacker, and if he's ready to play, he might get in there next year as a safety or different things, just to get an athlete on the field on a third and long or something like that. Just go get the quarterback type thing, and
yeah, they got a lot of different guys. I mean, even some of the linebackers probably from this year, like Cody Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he could probably do that role a little bit at different times next year. That
and Steele will be back, right?
Yeah, Steele, who knows? I mean, I don't think he's going to be that Leo, but
maybe he's one of the linebacker spots. Is Paleo back?
Paleo? Yeah, Paleo. I think he's back.
And then the kids they got this year.
And who knows who comes back off your defensive line? I mean, shoot, like Javante John Baptiste, maybe that's a good role for him. Like Tyler Friday's coming back. I think, he's probably not. He's probably maybe too big for that position, but who knows?
But this is going to be a defense where maybe, especially if they're going to go 3 down linemen and the one guy standing up, they might need they're going to need some thicker ends and stuff.
Oh, like that. Yeah. No, I mean, I think I was just talking specifically of that Jack linebacker spot. Yeah. So there's a lot he can play with. I think it's good for him. He's definitely a great defensive mind. His defenses always get better, makes great second half adjustments, and just really seems like he knows, what he's going against. I mean, they'd say the guy, as soon as the 1 week ends, the next week starts, he locks himself in his office. He watches game film, comes out when he feels like he has an understanding of the offense, and then he goes to work. So I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to be able to teach our guys to be a successful defense again.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So anything else you want to throw out there about him, or anything else you want to touch on tonight before we get out of here?
No, busy. I mean, busy day, busy couple weeks, a lot to talk about. I mean, I felt like we were kind of like, oh man, we should probably, break this 2-week thing. There's so much.
Well, we were going to do it. We were going to do it yesterday. And then I think we both kind of forgot that today was signing day. And then, some stuff just came up, and it wasn't even because of signing day. It was just like, some things came up, and it's like, oh, let's do it tomorrow night. And then it's like, hey, we can talk about signing day too.
So, I mean, that was definitely, there was a lot to talk about though, whether it was Michigan disrespect or, Jim Knowles. I mean, a lot of good stuff. So no, it's been busy, but I think we covered everything we wanted to tonight.
Yeah, and on our next show, we'll do that. We'll get ready for the Rose Bowl, and we'll probably also talk a little bit about the playoffs. Definitely,
Oh yeah,
some stuff to talk, about there. After kind of, I'm tired of this SEC dominance. I'm not that guy that has to root for the conference, and I'm definitely not that guy that roots for the arch rival. But like, there's just like a part of me. If it's not Ohio State, why couldn't it have been like Penn State or Wisconsin? Like, like somebody that I would have been like halfway okay with if they would have went out and go out and win the national title. It's like, do I really gotta root for Georgia? Like,
yes, for this one game, yes, you do.
God, I hope Vic in Cincinnati. I hope they shock the world. And I'll be as annoying as the Cincinnati fans have been over the last year. I think I will have to get behind that train if somehow.
I would be really happy for Luke Fickell if somehow he could pull out a national title.
Yeah, that would be pretty freaking cool. So a lot to talk about there. First game in Indianapolis, first championship in Indianapolis, and it's probably going to be Alabama versus Georgia. So
I just don't want Michigan.
Yeah, so we'll get into that on the next show. So all right, let's get on out of here for tonight.
All right, well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight at the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added, and please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.